Jesus Christ was born around 4 to 6 BC and is believed to have died between AD 30 to 33. He is a central figure in Christianity, regarded as the Son of God. According to Christian belief, Jesus' birth was miraculous, as his mother Mary conceived through the Holy Spirit. Jesus came to proclaim God's kingdom on earth, to cleanse humanity from sin, and to establish a right relationship with God. Throughout his life, the miracles Jesus performed, his teachings, and the love he showed to others made him one of the most influential religious leaders of his time. He emphasized themes such as love, tolerance, forgiveness, and justice, inviting people to live according to their faith in God. At around 30 years of age, Jesus began his ministry. After 3 years of public work, he was crucified by the Romans. However, according to Christian faith, Jesus sacrificed himself for humanity's sins before his death. 3 days later, he is believed to have risen from the dead, an event that holds great significance in Christianity. Peter, Simon, was one of Jesus' closest and most well-known apostles. His real name was Simon, and he was born into a fisherman family in the town of Bethsaida in Galilee. Peter played a central role in the early Christian movement. According to the Bible, Peter was one of the first to follow Jesus, and Jesus called him the Rock, signaling that he would be the foundation of the Christian community. Jesus entrusted Peter with the leadership of the church. Before meeting Jesus, Peter worked as a fisherman with his brother Andrew. Jesus called them, saying, "Come, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." From that moment, Peter's life was forever changed. He became one of Jesus' closest companions and was always by his side. Peter's courage and leadership qualities made him the most prominent of Jesus' apostles. However, one of the most notable events in the Bible is when Peter denied Jesus 3 times after his arrest. Jesus had predicted this denial, and Peter, fearing for his life, claimed not to know Jesus. After Jesus' resurrection, Peter was deeply remorseful and repented sincerely. This event symbolizes Peter's personal transformation and deepening faith. After Jesus' death, Peter became one of the key leaders of the early Christian community and is regarded as the first pope. He traveled to Rome, where he spread the teachings of Christianity. Christian tradition holds that Peter took on the papacy in Rome, where he was ultimately crucified. However, Peter, due to his devotion to Jesus, requested to be crucified upside down, as he did not wish to die in the same manner as Jesus. Peter's legacy is one of the cornerstones of Christian history. He is considered one of Christianity's first leaders and played a vital role in spreading Jesus' teachings. Peter's letters in the Bible also carry significant importance in Christianity, offering guidance on faith, love, and solidarity. Peter's life symbolizes the rebirth of a man who fluctuated between fear and faith, but ultimately grew deeply devoted to God. After Jesus' death, he had to lead the community and constantly strengthen his faith. With both his strengths and weaknesses, Peter remains one of the most important figures in the early days of Christianity. Andrew, who is often recognized as Peter's brother, was an important figure in early Christianity. His real name was Andrew, and in some sources he is referred to as Andrew of Alexandria. He was born in the town of Bethsaida, near the Sea of Galilee, and grew up working in his father Zebedee's fishing business. Andrew came from a fishing family and led a simple life. When Jesus saw Andrew and Peter fishing, he called them to follow him. Andrew responded immediately to God's call, and this moment marked a turning point in his life. Andrew immediately told his brother Peter that he had found the Messiah. Andrew's importance lies not only in being one of Jesus' first followers, but also in his dedication to spreading Jesus' teachings. He played a significant role in promoting Jesus' mission and teachings, especially in the early days of Christianity. After Jesus' death, Andrew continued to spread the gospel in various regions. Andrew traveled widely to spread Christianity, particularly to Greece, where he worked to establish a Christian community. In the city of Patras, he converted many to Christianity. According to biblical sources, Andrew was warmly received by the people of Patras, but eventually he was arrested by the Roman authorities and crucified. The crucifixion of Andrew became an important symbol in Christian tradition. Andrew was crucified in an X shape, which he chose because he did not want to die in the same manner as Jesus. After his crucifixion, Andrew reportedly lived for 3 days, continuing to preach God's message to people. The X-shaped cross, known as the Andrew's Cross, is still associated with him today. Andrew's legacy as one of Christianity's first missionaries is of great importance. His steadfast faith and dedication to spreading Jesus' teachings helped establish Christianity in various regions. The Orthodox Church and other Christian communities hold him in high regard. In Greece, Patras, where he was martyred, is considered a pilgrimage site. Andrew's life and character are deeply connected to values such as sacrifice, courage, loyalty, and faith. He followed Jesus without hesitation, enduring hardship to dedicate his life to God. For these reasons, Andrew is honored as one of the foundational figures in Christianity, revered by Christians throughout history. James is an important figure frequently mentioned in the New Testament and one of the 12 apostles of Jesus. James is the son of Zebedee and Salome and is known as the close friend and brother of Andrew and Peter. He was born and raised in the town of Bethsaida in Galilee in a family of fishermen. Initially, James worked as a fisherman, but when Jesus called him, his life completely changed, and he became one of Jesus' closest followers. James is known in the Gospels for his character traits such as anger and passion. Because of these characteristics, Jesus called James and his brother John the sons of thunder, Boanerges, referring to their strong and zealous nature. Their sometimes harsh and impulsive reactions paved the way for a deeper understanding of Jesus' teachings. James's devotion and loyalty to Jesus are emphasized throughout the Gospels. Jesus chose Peter, James, and John to be closer to him, taking them along for special moments. In the event of the Transfiguration on the mountain, Theophany, James, along with John, was with Jesus and witnessed this extraordinary experience. When Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane in his final hours, he took these three apostles with him and used the moment to teach them a deep lesson in faith and loyalty. One of the most striking events in James's life was his continued efforts to spread Christianity after Jesus' death. Like the other apostles, James embarked on a mission to spread Jesus' teachings. However, the event that ended his missionary work also made him the first apostle to be martyred. According to the book of Acts, James was beheaded by the orders of King Herod Agrippa. This event led to James being recognized as the first apostle to shed his blood for Christianity. James's martyrdom holds significant importance in Christian history as he is considered one of the first martyrs. His death is seen as a symbol of sacrifice and loyalty for the faith. James's martyrdom also serves as a reminder to Christians to be prepared for the challenges and persecutions they may face while following Jesus. James's memory is particularly honored in the Catholic and Orthodox traditions. In Spain, Santiago de Compostela is believed to be the location of his tomb and is an important pilgrimage site. The Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela was built in his honor, and hundreds of thousands of pilgrims visit it every year. James's life is intertwined with core Christian values such as faith, loyalty, sacrifice, and leadership. As one of Jesus' closest followers, he lived out Jesus' teachings and made great efforts to spread the gospel. James's life and martyrdom serve as a significant example of selflessness and faith in Christianity. John is another prominent figure frequently mentioned in the New Testament and one of Jesus' closest apostles. John, the son of Zebedee and Salome, was born and raised in the town of Bethsaida in Galilee. He came from a family of fishermen and had a life deeply connected to the sea from a young age. Before Jesus called him, John, along with his brother James, worked as a fisherman. When Jesus called them, John, like the other apostles, did not hesitate and followed immediately, thus changing his life. John, along with his brother James, became one of the closest three apostles to Jesus. Jesus took John along with him in special moments and allowed him to witness his most intimate experiences. Especially during the Transfiguration on the mountain, Theophany, and in the Garden of Gethsemane, John was near Jesus. During these experiences, John had the unique opportunity to witness Jesus' divine nature more closely. John's personality and inner depth are also notable in the Gospels. He is known for his love, loyalty, and deep faith. In the Gospel, John refers to himself as the disciple whom Jesus loved, symbolizing his special love and deep connection to Jesus. John is also known for his emotional and spiritual depth. One of the most significant events in John's life was when Jesus was crucified. Before his death, Jesus entrusted Mary, his mother, to John, saying, "Woman, here is your son." This act showed that Jesus considered John a trustworthy friend and loyal follower, marking an important moment in John's life. After Jesus' death, John continued to play a key role in spreading the teachings of Christianity. John particularly worked in Asia Minor, in areas now part of Western Turkey, to spread the message of Jesus. He settled in Ephesus, where he became one of the leading figures of the Christian community. John is traditionally recognized as the author of a part of the New Testament known as the Gospel of John. This gospel is quite different from the other three, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and offers a more philosophical and profound perspective. The Gospel of John emphasizes the divine nature of Jesus as the Son of God and places great emphasis on the theme of love, particularly God's love. John is also credited with writing the Book of Revelation, which is considered an apocalyptic text describing God's final victory in the end times. John is regarded as one of the most influential figures in Christian history. He not only spread the life and teachings of Jesus, but also left a profound spiritual legacy. The Gospel of John and the Book of Revelation are among his most important contributions to Christian history. John's memory is greatly honored, especially in Catholic and Orthodox traditions. His tomb in Ephesus has become a pilgrimage site for Christians. Furthermore, St. John is a figure who reflects the themes of love and faith in both his life and teachings, carrying a powerful message about the depths of Christian faith. Philip is one of the closest followers of Jesus. Philip was born in the town of Bethsaida in Galilee and grew up in a fishing family. After hearing Jesus' call, Philip immediately began to follow him, showing his deep faith and loyalty. Philip is known as one of the first people to recognize Jesus as the Messiah after the call of Andrew and Peter. This shows that he quickly responded to the recognition of Jesus as the Messiah and joined God's plan with strong faith. In the Bible, Philip is recognized as a very loyal follower and knowledgeable student. His story is often associated with the answers he gave to questions related to faith and openness. With his deep faith in Jesus and his teachings, Philip introduced Jesus to many people and worked to spread Jesus' message. Philip's name appears in many events in the Bible, but it stands out most in the event where a group of Greeks approached Philip to meet Jesus. In the Bible, a group of Greeks desiring to see Jesus came to Philip, and he took them to Jesus. This event symbolizes Philip's efforts to deliver Jesus' message to a wider audience. Another important turning point in Philip's life is his involvement in the miracle where Jesus multiplied the food. When Jesus performed the miracle of providing food for 5,000 people, Philip asked how the food would be provided. This event shows that while Philip sometimes struggled to understand Jesus' divine power, he never lost his faith in Jesus' greatness. The counsel Jesus gave to Philip symbolizes his development in both faith and understanding. After Jesus' death, Philip traveled to many places to spread the teachings of Christianity, fighting to deliver Jesus' message to people in regions like Egypt and Phrygia. Through Philip's missionary journeys, the teachings of Jesus continued to spread to a wide geographical area. Philip's martyrdom is an important turning point for the Christian faith. Some sources tell that Philip was stoned to death in a city for his work of spreading the Christian faith, while other sources say he was crucified as a martyr. However, in all sources, Philip's unwavering loyalty to Jesus' path and his dedication of his life to his faith are a common theme. Philip's legacy is associated with faith, openness, and determination in Christian history. As a teacher and missionary, Philip was an important figure in the early spread of Christianity. Philip, whose name frequently appears in the Bible, serves as an important example for Christians with his efforts in spreading Jesus' teachings and his faithful stance. Philip's name is associated with many churches, schools, and holy places, and monuments dedicated to him can be found, especially in Egypt and Phrygia. Philip's life offers an important story about the sacrifices made for faith and the efforts to spread God's message in the early years of Christianity. His life is identified with fundamental Christian values such as loyalty, leadership, and devotion to God, and he is honored with respect in both Western and Eastern churches. Bartholomew is another important figure whose name frequently appears in the Bible. Bartholomew is also known as Nathanael, and he is generally recognized as a friend and follower of Philip. His name appears as Bartholomew in most of the Bible texts, while in some sources the name Nathanael is used. These name differences show how he was recognized in different geographical and cultural contexts. Nathanael is thought to have been born in Cana and spent much of his life in Galilee. Philip was the first person to introduce Nathanael to Jesus, telling him that he should recognize the Messiah, the Savior. However, Nathanael was initially surprised that the Messiah came from Nazareth, and he responded with skepticism, saying, "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" Despite this, Philip convinced him and took him to meet Jesus. At this point, Jesus' words to Nathanael were quite significant. When Jesus saw Nathanael, he approached him and said, "Here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Surprised by this, Nathanael asked, "How do you know me?" Jesus replied, "I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you," showing that he knew Nathanael's inner state and sincerity. This caused Nathanael to be deeply affected, and his faith in Jesus rapidly grew. At that moment, Nathanael believed that Jesus was the Son of God and the Messiah, and he confessed, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." This confession marks an important turning point in Nathanael's acceptance of Jesus and recognition of him as the Son of God. Although Bartholomew, Nathanael, is only mentioned a few times in the Bible, his deep faith and straightforward, honest personality stand out. Nathanael, who immediately responded to Jesus' call and accepted Jesus with strong faith from the very beginning, was also a close friend of Philip, another apostle. This sincere and genuine approach symbolizes important themes of trust and inner faith in Christianity. After Jesus' death, Bartholomew, Nathanael, traveled to a wide geographical area to spread the teachings of Christianity. He was very influential as one of Philip's companions, who called people to believe in the Messiah in regions like Asia, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. It is said that Bartholomew traveled to Egypt and Central Asia, spreading Christianity and teaching many people about Jesus. Bartholomew's martyrdom holds an important place in Christian history. According to some sources, Bartholomew went to India and, while spreading the Christian message, was persecuted by those involved in missionary work and was beheaded as a martyr. According to another version, Bartholomew was flayed alive and then killed. In both cases, Bartholomew's sacrifice for his faith and loyalty is greatly respected by the Christian community. One of the main reasons Bartholomew is an important figure in the Christian community is his unwavering loyalty to the path of faith and his efforts to spread Jesus' teachings. Both the Catholic and Orthodox churches consider Bartholomew a saint, and his memory is celebrated in regions such as Egypt, Armenia, and India. Matthew is a prominent figure in the New Testament and is considered one of the most important figures in early Christianity. Matthew is also known as Levi, a name he had before being called by Jesus. He was born and raised in the town of Capernaum in Galilee. By profession, Matthew was a tax collector, which was a position widely despised by the people at the time because tax collectors were often seen as collaborators with the Roman Empire, collecting excessive taxes for their own benefit. The moment when Jesus saw Matthew collecting taxes and invited him to follow him was a turning point. Like the other disciples, Matthew immediately decided to follow Jesus and left his former life behind. Jesus' call to him to follow me marked a significant change, leading Matthew to turn away from his worldly wealth and position to dedicate his life to God's kingdom. This moment became a turning point for Matthew, marking the beginning of his journey in following Jesus. In the Gospel, Matthew plays an important role, not only as one of Jesus' closest disciples, but also as the one who recorded his teachings. The Gospel of Matthew, one of the most important sacred texts for Christians, is said to have been written by him. The Gospel of Matthew provides significant details about Jesus' life, miracles, death, and resurrection, and serves as a vital spiritual resource for Christians. This gospel especially emphasizes Jesus' teachings and the concept of the kingdom of God, presenting him as the Messiah. Additionally, the Gospel of Matthew reflects Jesus' love and mercy toward both the Jewish people and all humanity, calling people into God's kingdom. After the death of Jesus, Matthew continued to spread the teachings of Christianity. As a missionary, Matthew focused especially on spreading the message of Jesus to the Jewish community, proclaiming that Jesus was the promised Messiah of God. His missionary work, reflected in his writings, shows how the call to God's kingdom spread widely. Matthew is a highly significant figure as someone who dedicated his life to following Jesus. There are different accounts of his martyrdom. Some sources suggest that Matthew went to India to spread the gospel and was martyred there, while others say he was martyred in Ethiopia. Matthew's life is an example of great sacrifice and devotion to spreading the Christian faith. Matthew's legacy continues through the gospel he wrote. The Gospel of Matthew is one of the most important resources for Christians to understand the teachings and life of Jesus. It tells a story of the Messiah's coming and the establishment of the kingdom of God, offering profound insights into Jesus' sermons and his approach to the laws. The Gospel also provides important details about Jesus' birth, the role of John the Baptist, and the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew's life and his work as a missionary and writer symbolize a critical period in the early years of Christianity, showing how the teachings began to spread. Matthew is remembered as a missionary and evangelist during challenging times. His contributions to Christian history earned him the title of Saint Matthew, and he is venerated by Catholic, Orthodox, and other Christian denominations. Thomas is one of the most notable figures in the New Testament. He is also known as Didymus, meaning twin, which may refer to the possibility of him having a twin or being recognized as a twin by others. However, in the Gospel, he is more commonly referred to as Thomas. He was born into a Jewish family and grew up in a region in Galilee. When he first heard the call of Jesus, he initially had difficulty believing in his messianic mission. However, Thomas's deep love and devotion for Jesus made him one of his followers. Thomas's story in the Gospel is particularly known for his skepticism. After hearing that Jesus had risen from the dead, Thomas refused to believe the other disciples, saying, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." This declaration led to Thomas being known as the doubting disciple. However, a week later, Jesus appeared to Thomas and the other disciples and asked Thomas to touch his nail marks in the wound in his side. Upon seeing Jesus, Thomas immediately declared, "My Lord and my God," acknowledging Jesus as the Son of God. This event caused Thomas to overcome his doubts and accept the true nature of Jesus. Jesus responded by saying, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed," highlighting that faith goes beyond mere sight. Thomas's encounter with the risen Jesus is a significant symbol of faith and trust. His initial doubt represents the internal struggles and questioning that many face in their journey of faith, yet his ultimate acceptance of Jesus as the Messiah underscores his deep loyalty and understanding. Some sources suggest that Thomas was martyred in India and died painfully for his faith, while others say he was killed by a spear on a mountain by a hostile crowd. His martyrdom symbolizes the great sacrifices made for the faith, and his death holds historical and spiritual significance. Thomas's life and death represent important milestones in the history of Christianity. They offer an example of the sacrifices made for the spread of the Christian faith and underscore the importance of questioning and faith in one's spiritual journey. Thomas's acknowledgement of Jesus' resurrection and his commitment to a life devoted to God holds deep meaning for Christians, many churches and sacred sites, particularly among the saint. Thomas Christians in India honor him. In a materialistic world, Thomas serves as a symbol of faith and trust in God, and his story continues to teach that doubt and questions are an essential part of one's faith journey. James is an important figure in the Bible, but there is not as much information about James, son of Alphaeus, in the scriptures as there is about other apostles. He is most commonly known as son of Alphaeus. Because of this, there is limited information about his life and role, but several important aspects about his connection to Jesus and his role in the early Christian church can be discussed. James is referred to as the son of Alphaeus. Although little is known about his father, Alphaeus, some sources suggest that Alphaeus was of Jewish descent and came from a humble family. This implies that James came from a modest background. The name of James' mother is also mentioned in some sources as Maria. James was not a direct relative or family member of Jesus, but during that time, many people shared the same name, which sometimes led to confusion. James, the son of Alphaeus, is one of Jesus' disciples who answered his call to follow him and began spreading his message. Like most of Jesus' followers, James believed in the kingdom of God that Jesus promised and accepted him as the Messiah. However, there is not much detail about James' personality or duties in the Bible. He is mostly referred to as son of Alphaeus, and as a result, has not been as prominent as other figures with the same name, such as James, son of Zebedee. Like the other apostles, James probably played a role in spreading the teachings of Christianity and tried to carry on Jesus' message after his death. James' name appears in several sections of the Bible, but he is not introduced in much detail. The reason for him being commonly referred to as James, son of Alphaeus, is because other important figures with the same name, such as James, son of Zebedee, exist, which leads to some confusion. Like the other apostles, James witnessed several important events during his journey with Jesus. However, while he may have witnessed Jesus' death and resurrection, there are no personal, attention-grabbing stories about him. After Jesus' death, James, son of Alphaeus, may have played a significant missionary role in spreading Christianity. Some early sources suggest that James traveled to various regions to share the Christian faith. However, there is not much information about James's martyrdom. From the text in the Bible, we can conclude that James, son of Alphaeus, has passed into history as a quieter figure. It is possible that another James, the son of Zebedee, became more prominent in the history of Christianity, which caused James, son of Alphaeus, to remain in the shadows. James was an important figure in the early history of Christianity, fulfilling his role in spreading Jesus' message. However, due to his lesser prominence compared to other apostles, there is not much detailed information about him. Though he is recognized as an important figure in the spread of Christian teachings, his role in the Bible is not as highlighted as that of other apostles, making him a less known figure when compared to others. Thaddeus is another figure who is mentioned a few times in the Bible, but has little information provided about him. Thaddeus is also known as Lebbaeus, and both names refer to him in the scriptures. The use of two names is due to the common practice of having multiple names in the Jewish community during that time, which occasionally led to recognizing the same person by different names. The name Thaddeus means brave or courageous, while Lebbaeus means great-hearted or strong. These names may symbolize Thaddeus's character and leadership potential. However, there are few details in the biblical text regarding these qualities. It is believed that Thaddeus refers to two different people in the Bible. One of them is Thaddeus, son of Alphaeus, and the other might be referred to as Lebbaeus. The use of both names together doesn't provide much insight into Thaddeus's personality or position among the apostles. Although Thaddeus was one of Jesus' closest followers, he does not play a prominent role in the Bible. He remained a devoted disciple of Jesus, but there is no direct information about his specific contributions to the teachings of Jesus. Thaddeus is mentioned in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, but the references to him are brief and superficial. He is listed among the apostles in passages such as Matthew 10:3, Mark 3:18, and Luke 6:16. But these texts provide little detail about his duties, character, or relationship with Jesus. One notable feature about Thaddeus is his relationship with the other apostles and the questions he asked during Jesus' final supper. In John 14:22, Thaddeus asked Jesus, "Lord, why do you intend to show yourself to us and not to the world?" This question shows that Thaddeus was a figure who sought to understand the divine mystery, deeply contemplating the nature of God's plan. After this question, Jesus explains that God reveals himself specially to those who believe and that the message will be spread through them to the world. This passage reveals Thaddeus' search for faith and his deep curiosity about understanding God's secret. After Jesus' death, Thaddeus likely continued spreading Jesus' teachings and promoting Christianity. However, there is not much information about his activities during this period. According to traditional Christian sources, Thaddeus is believed to have worked to spread the Christian message in the Middle East, particularly in regions like Mesopotamia. Some sources suggest that Thaddeus might have traveled to India, but there is no clear historical record to confirm this. Some early Christian writings suggest that Thaddeus worked with Aramaic-speaking communities and might have established Christian communities in places like Damascus or cities in Mesopotamia, such as Edessa. Additionally, there are some traditions that indicate Thaddeus clashed with local people who rejected Christianity and was martyred for his faith. However, there is no definitive historical evidence to confirm the details of his martyrdom. Although Thaddeus is less known in Christian history, he holds an important place as a loyal figure who remained faithful to the teachings of Jesus. His dedication to spreading the Christian faith and his efforts to reach others are valuable contributions to the history of Christianity. Thaddeus's name is still honored in certain churches, and his belief in the reality of Jesus and his impact on the communities he served are remembered. Judas Iscariot is one of the most debated and remembered figures in Christian history. Judas is commonly known as the person who betrayed Jesus, and his role in the Bible is central to the betrayal that led to Jesus' arrest and crucifixion. However, details about Judas's life and character go beyond mere betrayal, and there are various nuances in the biblical narratives about him. The name Judas Iscariot is often recognized by the surname Iscariot, which likely refers to his place of origin. Iscariot probably derives from the town of Kerioth, indicating that Judas was from southern Judea. Kerioth was a town in ancient Jewish territory, suggesting that Judas was of Jewish origin and lived in southern Judea. Judas stands out as the only one of the disciples who came from the south, as the other disciples were mostly Galileans. This difference in origin may carry symbolic meanings regarding Judas. In the Bible, Judas Iscariot is listed as one of the 12 apostles, but his role is always associated with betrayal. Judas initially followed Jesus as a disciple, listening to his teachings alongside the others. However, over time, instead of understanding Jesus' message, he diverged due to internal conflicts and material interests. In the Bible, Judas's loyalty and devotion to Jesus are constantly questioned. Judas is remembered as the one who facilitated Jesus' arrest and handed him over to the authorities. During the Last Supper, the night before Jesus' arrest, Jesus indicates that one of his disciples will betray him, hinting at Judas's impending betrayal. Judas's act of betraying Jesus for money becomes the key factor leading to Jesus' arrest and eventual crucifixion. Judas's most well-known and debated action is his betrayal of Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. According to the Bible, Judas conspired with the Jewish priests, agreeing to reveal Jesus' location in exchange for money. While Jesus was praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, Judas identified him with a kiss, leading to Jesus' arrest. There are differing views on the motivations behind Judas's betrayal. Some suggest that Judas was disillusioned because Jesus' kingdom did not align with his expectations of a worldly political revolution. Judas may have hoped that betraying Jesus would force a change in the world according to his own vision. After the betrayal, the Bible states that Judas was overcome with guilt and remorse. He tried to return the 30 pieces of silver to the priests, but they refused to accept it. Judas ultimately hanged himself, a tragic end that reflects his deep regret and guilt over his betrayal. This event is a powerful narrative about the consequences of betraying Jesus, with death being the price paid. There are many legends and traditional interpretations surrounding Judas Iscariot. Some Christian thinkers argue that Judas's betrayal was part of God's plan, as Jesus' crucifixion was meant to bring salvation to the world. From this perspective, Judas's betrayal is seen as an event that fulfilled God's divine plan. Gnostic texts and some ancient writings, however, portray Judas as a hero or a divine figure. These texts suggest that Judas acted on God's will to betray Jesus, carrying out a hidden mission. However, such interpretations conflict with traditional Christian teachings and reflect a more mystical perspective.